Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the latest edition of Terrace Talk. Of course, we're recording this prior to Norwich's trip to Queen's Park Rangers tomorrow, so worth noting that. As we crack on, I'm delighted to be joined, of course, with Watford the Visitors by Do Not Scratch Your Eyes podcast host Pete and Justin. Guys, thanks for joining me, of course, as usual. It's been an interesting few weeks, I'd say, for Watford. 2 wins in your last 10 games in all competitions, but 5 draws. So it feels like maybe the draw specialists of the Championship at the moment. What have you made of recent weeks?
Well, as we speak, we haven't scored in 3 games. We haven't had tell a lie. We haven't had a shot on goal in 3 games. We haven't scored a goal in open play for 5.5 games. We've got Leicester tomorrow. So as you watch this, imagine that's actually probably 4 and 6.5 games for that particular stat. No, it's not. It's not going very well. We had some enthusiasm earlier on in the season. It's been a bit of a roller coaster thing. Started off great against QPR for 45 minutes. That's now been declared the official good era of the entire season. Thereafter, it dipped. We went down to the manager got us down to 21st place, then got given a new contract, an extended contract. Watford and managers, it's like oil and water. You don't really want to be drinking either of those, really, ideally. So, yes, it's been a bit odd. We had a good run after not the last, but the prior international break. Things started to get going a little bit better when Jake Livermore came in for us and has been doing a great job. But unfortunately, he's 74 years old. So he basically kind of gets carted off around 60 minutes. And then we all go, oh, God, what's happening? And try to avert our eyes a lot. We've signed a forward last summer who has scored 8 or 9 goals. I mean, a goodly return. And on that basis, you would think he would have some resale value. However, he is the quintessential jigsaw. Normally, you talk that about a goalkeeper. At the other end, take him out of the box. He has not got an earthly clue. His name is Mileta Rajovic. He's Danish. Very nice guy. Everybody likes him and supports him. Nobody has a go at him. But I think in a foot race, I'd probably win. He basically has 2 speeds, and one of them is stop, and the other is not quite stop. It's just, it's a shame for him. We're hoping that with the pre-season next year, he's going to be thoroughly successful, in brackets, for another club. But we'll see,
Yeah, I mean, you're only 3 points behind us, somewhat still in the playoff race in this bonkers Championship season that's currently unfolding. Only really 5th and 6th place to probably play for. Justin, do you think you've got what it takes to get in the top 6 come the end of the season?
No. Did you want me to elaborate on it more than that? No, I honestly don't think we have, to be honest with you. Our January window was so quiet. We did bring in Emmanuel Dennis, but he doesn't look as if he's match fit in any way whatsoever. So, no, I don't think we have. I think most people you speak to probably think top 10 is ambitious. And possibly even a couple of places outside of that. So no, it's not going to happen, mate. You need momentum to sort of start looking at that, and we've not got it. So no, I don't think so.
We also have now a first team squad of 22 players, and in the local paper there was a blindingly wonderful headline which said that Valerian Ismail, when we've come down to 22 players, said it's not an issue of players, it's an issue of a busy schedule. And you go, well, which schedule were you trying to plan for? Presumably the one you didn't have. If you've only got 22 players and you've got the number of, bearing in mind, we are now out of the cup as well. So, how many games are we expecting between now and May? Never mind. Our guys are tired, basically.
Yeah. And you mentioned the lack of business. Of course, Emmanuel Dennis on loan from Nottingham Forest, a pretty good spell at Watford previously. I think 10 goals in the Premier League. Happy with that signing, or you mentioned the lack of fitness. Is it one that's maybe going to take so long to build up his fitness that maybe the end of the season will already be upon us?
That one, yeah. I mean, yeah, he did have, a good flurry of goals at the start of his time with us. But then, there was some disruptions with AFCON and stuff, and it just didn't gel. And then rumours were that there were actually stories in publications about the fact that the dressing room were cheering when he left. Such was his alleged disruptive influence. So when it was rumoured that he was coming back, I was like, ugh. And then there was fanfare like you wouldn't believe out of the official club comms. It was just like, Dennis is back. Yes, we know. Dennis is back. Yeah, we know. And yeah, I mean, he's nowhere near fit. Nowhere near. So, if we had the Emmanuel Dennis of the first part of our Premier League campaign with him now, then I would say, maybe knocking on the doors of the playoffs. But no, it's not made any difference that I can see, to be honest.
Adam, you've hit the nail on the head. He's had 3 appearances for us. The first 2 appearances were like 10 minutes, and it became apparent that 10 minutes was about twice as long as he needed. And the second one was 5 minutes. Then he played for about half an hour, didn't he? And looked okay, but was clearly kind of, falling off a precipice after 10 minutes. And then we didn't take him to Southampton in the Cup, which was an obviously totally disposable game for us because the winners get to go and get gubbed at Anfield. And that's not something we're really bothered about, to be quite frank. We're like you. We've been to the Premier League. We've seen it. We've done that. We don't need it again. And you'd have thought that for somebody who was declared as, one of the things that Valerian Ismail has come out and said is that he only wanted players if they were going to come in and go flying in and really make an impact. And that absolutely makes sense. So, we then go for somebody who hasn't played since November. And the story was, well, he hasn't played, but he's trained and he's sharp and he's going to be ready to go. Well, when he came on for that first 10 minutes, we all went, yeah, right. Of course he is. He's got to get himself into it. He is genuinely, and we know he is. He's a real talent who failed to fire amongst, getting into the top 50 of the squad in Nottingham Forest when they were buying most of the Western world. He's then gone off to Istanbul Başakşehir, which is basically kind of like I don't know. It's like playing for Bournemouth in the Premier League. They're not pulling up trees. It's not gone very well. He can be a bit combustible. When he came to us the first time, we knew this already. I mean, he left Cologne because somebody was sitting in his seat on the coach, and the fallout of that got to the point of him leaving the club. I mean, go figure. So we know that that's the case, but he likes Watford. He's sacrificing a lot of wage by according to reports. How much of that is him actually giving it up, and how much of it is a club is doing this or what have you? We don't know. We would hope that for the last 10 games of the season, maybe he should be ready to fire, because what we don't have, because of Mileta Rajovic and because of the other option, which is a guy called Vacuum Bio, who tries very hard. But the words cows, arse, and banjo fly to mind every time he's actually got a chance. It's we could really do with somebody with his pedigree in front of goal, because we've struggled for goals literally all season.
Yeah, I was reading this morning. I think you missed a couple of targets in the January window, a defensive midfielder and a left-footed defender. How would you rank then the January window as a sort of a score out of 10? You mentioned maybe the lack of fitness there with Dennis and the sort of smallish squad. Yeah, rank it out of 10.
2.
Justin?
2. Over to you, Peter.
I think 2 is reasonable. They released the accounts yesterday, and now we can probably understand why we missed those opportunities to spend money that we probably don't have very much of. I have heard rumour of one of the signings that we looked at, or we were trying to sign. It would be the right person, i.e., a lower league player, right age, right profile, right thing. But the rumor was that we didn't get it done either in time, or they couldn't get a replacement in time, or whatever it was. Sometimes if you just come in so late that you're not going to give somebody else a chance to replace it, you've got to ask if it's a real genuine thing. And anybody who's worked in sales before will know full well, everybody's had deals that came close. You don't get paid commission for those because they didn't actually happen. And that's kind of where we are. So as we are, 2, but I think we're going to have to start trading in those kind of waters moving forward, rather than thinking of ourselves as a Premiership team on loan to the Championship. Those days are gone.
Yeah, you said about trading in waters. I mean, Valerian Ismail somehow managed to keep himself in the job for over 6 months, which is probably commendable in itself. Had to double check. You haven't had a different manager since then, but no, I can confirm he's been in
got his own
since May
parking space. He's got his own parking space now, mate. They've actually said, well done. So yeah.
Because every time we sack a manager, which we used to call Wednesdays, they basically would put up a corner flag up. It was always a corner flag for some reason. It was there's some people in the club social media department who've got a great sense of humour, because they put up a corner flag and went, "We've extended the manager's contract," and everybody did a double take and went, and then looked at the league table. But we're 21st. Why have you done? What's going on? So yes, just chaos reigns per normal. It's all good fun, Who'd have it any other way?
Yeah,
Really.
I mean, what's he done then to keep himself in the job for this long? What sort of playing style, I suppose, has he brought to Watford? Is it something that the fans are buying into to maybe make his stay worthwhile?
I'm not sure it's the playing style. I think it's the fact that he might have actually galvanised the players, and we haven't seen a squad that play for each other for 4 seasons, and we're starting to see that now. We're starting to see players that look as if they care, that look as if they're playing for and with each other. He's been a disciplinarian. He's couple of players that have turned up late for meetings have been, well, if you were in the squad, you're now on the bench, and if you were on the bench, you're now out of the squad for the week. They've stopped doing that now. Two or three of them tested him, and now then no one's doing that now. So he's brought some discipline into the squad. The football, I would say, arguably is better maybe than we saw last season. But for me, it's just, a lot of people are now saying it's nice to actually go and look forward to going to football on a Saturday, which hasn't been the case for about the last 4 seasons. So that's probably the biggest change he's made for me.
Yeah. In previous years, the Watford team has looked not very good and disinterested, and now we simply look not very good. At least they're trying. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but anybody who's not in the top 6 and has a level of entitlement that we should always be in Europe and let's go and start our own league in Europe and all, the kind of people I'm talking about. Effectively, what you want is a team that represent you. What you don't really want is expensive mercenaries who bleat that, oh, well, I'm used to playing in the top division. Well, maybe if you'd shaken a leg when we were there, we might still be there. But no, they're all the people who have, all of the trappings and none of the accountability. What we've now got is, players who seemingly want to be there in the main. There will always be, as you go through a season, players who don't. One of the players that we saw go out is a good quality player, an Imran loser, but he's a good quality player who's been doing the impression of a disaffected international who thinks he should be somewhere else for quite some time. So now he is somewhere else at Le Havre, and we hope that obviously that turns into, enough form to be able to kind of move him on, because he's the kind of player and with the wages that we need to move on in order to really kind of recalibrate ourselves as a sustainable championship club. And you guys know all about that as much as we do.
Yeah, you mentioned there sort of the players trying to play for the manager again. Who's maybe been the star man so far this season? I know sort of from the bits I've seen, seems like Kone's maybe starring quite a bit. Asprilla, we know, is a young player with lots of potential. Wesley Hoot sort of seen a few good goals this season. One against Hull, I believe, was a bit of a peach. I'll go around both of you. Who's maybe the man to look out for on Tuesday night?
Jake Livermore, I would say, in terms of the impact he's had on the players. Also, for me, the revelation this season has been Ben Hamer in goal. We gave Daniel Backman the captaincy and a 5-year contract in the close season, and he's just proven himself, I think, to be very hot-headed, just not what we need. He got a suspension, and Hamer came in, and he's kept his place ever since, apart from cup matches. But I mean, you have got some maverick talents there, like Asprilla. Mateus Martins on his day can be quite devastating to watch. We're just lacking a centre forward that can, like Peter said earlier on about Rajovic, can run. And the one that can run can't score. Combine them somehow. Maybe play 2 up top. Who knows? Anyway, that's my thoughts. What about you, Pete?
I think I agree with everything, apart from the definition of man to watch is Jake Livermore, which sounds even strange to us, and we've watched him and gone, wow, he really is good, but he's not the kind of person to draw the eye from an opposition fan. But he was entirely what we didn't have at that point of the season, because he was brought in, got fit over a 10-game period or whatever it was, then came in and we went, oh wow, no, he's been tremendous. I think our right back is probably going to be, along with Kone and along with Asprilla, probably the players who are most touted or hunted by top tier teams around the world. Ryan Andrews is a right back. He's the son of a guy called Wayne Andrews, who was a player for us in the kind of 90s, a striker, but he kind of probably had about 30 odd games, something like that, and then went and kind of had a career in the kind of the bottom two divisions ideally. But he's come in as a young lad. He is basically the equivalent of Rowe for us. He's been in the academy. He's come through Man and Boy. He's playing. He's got a lot of pace. He's got a lot of quality on the ball. He plays right wing, but genuinely at times he's ended up becoming right winger. It's mainly because of the dearth of bodies in the squad that he's been anchored at right back, because our other right back is constantly injured at the moment, although he's actually back from injury and training now, but probably a little too late to give him another contract at the end of the season. So I'd say Ryan Andrews is a player to watch. He's a real baller. And Kone is excellent, but we've got a lad called Georgie Chakfadadze, who we call Dave, save us days and days. And he kind of can operate in the same way. They both kind of can play in that sort of number 8 role. So we play a 4-3-3 with Livermore at the base of the midfield, 2 number 8s effectively left and right, supporting inverted wingers typically, but sometimes we kind of reverse it again, and a single forward. And he can play, this Chakfadadze lad can play in either the number 8s or the left-sided kind of attacking winger option. And he tends to, if he and Kone are playing, they both occupy the same space. They probably both play better alongside Tom Delibashiru or Edo Kayembe, who isn't playing because he went to the African Cup of Nations, but he came back before it started because he picked up an injury against Plymouth for us. But he's one of those players who isn't going to be there, but makes the midfield do the right things. He's one of those sort of, yes, he plays further forward than Livermore, but he's still quite self-sacrificing. With Kone, he's got a great turn on him when he wants to do it, but there are times when his selection is odd. This will literally be his 2nd anniversary of turning into a professional footballer in Canada, and therefore he still has a certain level of naivety about him. But he's also got an engine. He's got a shot at range, which is worth noting, and he can hit. He's the one who can sometimes get hold of the ball in and around the final third and put in that kind of decent but powerful pass that allows you to break. Because sometimes we get people and they go, I'm just going to play a pass that will just reach you. It's like, oh God, it's broken down. He doesn't. He basically puts some behind it and says, get on the end of that, which is what you need on occasions if you're going to try and break.
Yeah, one player you've not mentioned, who I'm assuming maybe hasn't pulled up too many trees, is a former Norwich City left back, a youth academy product of our system, Jamal Lewis. 100 games for the Canaries, 2 goals, on loan at Vicarage Road from Newcastle. How's he getting on, I suppose?
I don't rate him personally. I personally don't rate him at all. I don't think he's added anything to our squad whatsoever. You're going to tell me that's harsh, aren't you, Peter?
No, I think the word I was looking for was accurate, actually. No, he's obviously got stuff, because we saw what he did with you guys and we thought we were going to see that. But we didn't get it. He turned up again. He wasn't fit. Took a long time to get fit. And then he came in and we were looking at his kind of 22-year-old contingency left back that we've got in called James Morris, who's a thoroughly nice guy, but not probably the person that you think is going to anchor first place left back. And you went, well, he doesn't really offer us an awful lot else. He's had a couple of decent games, but beyond that, not a lot. I personally don't think that the 4-3-3 helps him because he naturally looks to try to bomb on, which in our case normally leaves us vulnerable on the counter attack, which is something that you still get with Valerian Ismail teams. But where we're playing with a 4-3-3 and a really wide winger, he needs the inverted winger to push in order to create some space. And sometimes we don't do that, and it doesn't really work that well. And yet he combines with Sema, who is left-footed, probably better than he does with the inverted player. So it's sort of counterintuitive, but defensively, he's been very, very poor. Andrews, who I've spoken about beforehand, he's giving him 6 or 7 years and, 7 years of experience, and one can defend and the other one, he's not quite got the muck and bullets attitude that you kind of need. I think he feels that he should be possibly higher up in the league and higher up in the echelons of the game than a Watford, perhaps.
Yeah, it's not really worked out for him ever since he left. Defensively, quite suspect at Norwich, to be fair, which is probably why the eyeballs maybe grew out of the skull a little bit when he moved to Newcastle. But yeah, it's not really worked out for him. Moving back to Watford, though, 5th currently in terms of the away record in the Championship. You seem to be pretty good on the road, maybe less so at home, though. I don't think your home record's quite so good. Is there any reason behind that? I know sort of, sometimes there's underpinning reasons. Any reason why you're good away from home and not so good at home?
No,
We're 24th in the home record stakes.
Oh,
We have
really?
got the worst home record stakes going. And well, can you remember the last win? I'll tell you, Rotherham. Or no, there might have been one more. There may have
5
been.
nil. Yeah,
That was a
possibly.
that was a 5-0. But in fairness, it was Rotherham. It was on the road. We hadn't won since forever.
It was a
And
year,
then,
wasn't
then
it?
we
It was a
beat,
year that we hadn't won on the road.
and then we beat Swansea, and since we kind of haven't lost away, except the FA Cup against Southampton. Yeah, so it was So no, I think what happens is that teams we quite often come back at teams. We're not a team to go and impose ourselves in the first minutes of games, or indeed in the first half of games, I would suggest. So we've quite often gone behind, as we did at Preston, get a goal back in the second half, and then we came out and absolutely pumped them 4-0 in the second half to win 5-1. But we also had kind of 2-1 wins where literally in the 89th minute we're losing 1-0 and we get 2 goals by Mileta Rajovic, who I've mentioned is kind of odd and only scores goals, and a guy called Reece Healey, who was another one who then departed, for the season. So it's it's odd. I think there may be a not a weight of expectation with Vicarage Road. We're not rabid, West Ham supporting kind of people who get on the back of everybody. But sometimes listening to some people, you think we were, but no. If anything, we're accused of being too quiet and meek and mild at home. So it's not like there's a pressure there. I think it's more to do with the opposition than it is to do with us. I think it is the fact that people will come away and think, "Oh, Watford," and we'll sit and then we'll hit you on the break. And therefore, that's why we've had a number of draws or low-scoring defeats at home. We had it against Cardiff. We had one against Blackburn earlier on the season where we absolutely, if it was a boxing match, it would be over. But it's not a boxing match, and they got the one breakaway goal and went through us like a skewer through a kebab. It was like, oh, good grief. So yeah, that's what I think it is. So we'll see. I think we look better for teams who are looking to try to play onto us.
Yeah, you mentioned everyone beats Rotherham. We failed to do that this season. So that probably sums up where we've been at certain points this season. With that, intrigued just to kind of get your thoughts and feelings on Norwich and our season from afar. I know you probably both have an interest in the Championship more generally. Have you seen much of Norwich, and who's maybe the men? I've already mentioned one man on your podcast that maybe you'll probably recap for me that you might be fearing on Tuesday night.
Yeah, we hate Josh Sargent because in the same way as I hated Robbie Savage, right? One, because he obviously has a level of physical appearance that allows you to mark him out on the pitch, but also he's good, which is really genuinely an annoying combination of things to do. Notable and good. He scored goals against us. He scored with that scorpion kick that was a great, don't get me wrong, it was a great reflex thing, but it was not Pele. And you would have to instruct the Sky commentators that it was not at that point. But that may just be us being bitter. Go figure. But he's done it to us every time, even when he's kind of having kind of games that aren't really there. He's done well. I think he's a heck of a player. We also have. I wouldn't call this I'd say it's a completely rational hatred of Ashley Barnes, mainly due to everything he's ever done in his career for every team he's ever played for. But that notwithstanding, obviously he's not kind of figured for you as prominently as I thought he would do. I think a number of seasoned Championship football fans at Watford went, "Oh, that was a clever signing." Because he's done it for the clubs he's been at. There's, again, we don't just dislike him because he's, kind of an outhouse. We dislike him because he's an effective outhouse, and there's again nothing more irritating than that combination. So that's good. I think obviously the story, outside of Carrow Road, looking in, is Jonathan Rowe. As I've mentioned to you before, looks an exceptional talent. I'm always delighted to see players who come through a team's academy and under 18s and under 21s and come through, and is one given a chance. In the top 2 tiers of football isn't that common these days in the English game. To see him do that, and then to see him thrive is a great thing to see. Not least of all because, yes, like most people seemingly that I've ever spoken to, did you see the Norwich Ipswich go? Yes, wasn't he good? We all everybody seemed to watch that game for some reason, and yes, he did the business. He's sharp, he's a problem. So yeah, no, I'd call them out most certainly.
Yeah, would you agree with that, Justin? Have you seen much of Norwich this season, and any key threats that maybe for you to look out for from a Watford perspective on Tuesday?
Does Darren Huckabee still play for you? No, I'm not going to add anything to what Peter added there. I think that was a comprehensive answer. There you go.
Yeah, I'd agree. The reverse game, of course, at Vicarage Road was a pretty much a thriller, a 3-2 Watford win. Norwich 2-0 up within 12 minutes. Goals from Daniel Hart and Yujo Wang, who no longer is at Carrow Road. Watford scored 3 goals to win the game. I suppose any memories from that game, probably less so by the fact that I've just told you and you reacted in a way you forgot it existed.
Well, it was one of those ones where I think, well, no, because at 2-0 down, I think I was posting all sorts of stuff like, here we go. I actually managed to find a signal in Vicarage Road. Quick, I've got a signal. Because it was a very, very quick 2-0 down, wasn't it? I enjoyed that game in the end, funnily enough. But yeah, no, thanks for reminding me of that, because again, coming from behind is not something that Watford traditionally do very well. And to come back from being 2-0 down, I'd have to probably go back to the semi-final against Wolves at Wembley for that to have happened, I would have thought. So, yeah, no, I think, that was quite an enjoyable game in the end, but it's just a typical Watford-Norwich game, wasn't it? Which is just always a bit bonkers.
Yeah. I do remember it. And it was the start of that run that I alluded to prior to after the international break. I'm trying to remember if that is actually the case. It was 3 days after we'd played Leicester. We'd lost 2-0 at Leicester. No great fear with that. But what had happened, and kind of almost tying all of the questions together, we'd played and we'd frustrated Leicester, and then we took off the aforementioned Jake Livermore. So that was on 65 minutes. They scored on 75. They scored on 90. That gives you an idea of how valuable he is to us. Against you guys, you go 2-0 up, and Huang was causing us a nightmare. He genuinely was, and he injured him. I think he injured himself scoring the goal from somewhere just outside of Hemel Hempstead. I mean, it was a range out, and the ball moved in the air. We know because we were behind it, and it was a super strike. He went off, and then we saw the value of both Jake Livermore and Wesley Hoot as captain and as pretty much captain, but I don't need an armband in Jake Livermore, pulling everybody together and saying, look, this isn't good enough. We need to offer some resistance here, because you were having it as a field day. And I appreciate that you will look at it from one end of that telescope and be absolutely spitting chips about it. We were highly delighted because a huge part of that last 4 years where they've looked disinterested has been that they have had no fight. There's been no resilience. And this was the first time, and I think probably since, as you say, the Wembley semi-final in 2019, that we actually turned around and went no, and had the gumption and the guts and the personnel to turn the result around. And I appreciate if you're looking at it from the other end of it, it's not going to feel like that. But that was the start of the run that I think at the moment we've lost something like 4 games in 21. And we keep kind of adding the defeats to this long tally to make it sound impressive nowadays. At the moment, we've hit an absolute nightmare patch in the last few. But that was the start of the uptick from that kind of 21st in the league. And so, no, it was a pretty seminal game for our season.
Yeah, that was one of the defeats in this run. Last 10 games, Norwich just 2 wins, Watford 8 wins against each other, which shows you've had the upper hand in this fixture over recent years. With that, going to get your thoughts and feelings heading into Tuesday night, and of course a score prediction. I'll come to you first, Justin. Score prediction and thoughts and feelings heading to Carrow Road.
Well, I mean, like you said, away we have been marginally better. I didn't realise it was a 24th position and 5th position on the form or whatever it is. So that tells a story. It's just always a bonkers game, isn't it? On our podcast, I predicted a 2-2. I'd be happy with a 2-2. I'll go the 2-2, Adam. But yeah, it's just always, anything can happen.
Yeah, you Pete. Do you agree a draw, or are you feeling more confident?
Well, the first time I came to Carrow Road would have been mid-90s and we won 2-1. The last time I came to Carrow Road was when Emmanuel Dennis scored that goal and we won 3-1. So this time I think I will go for Norwich winning 2-0.
It does feel like we are due one, to be fair.
If you look at how we've played, our legs have gone in midfield. We were sitting there going, you need to make some, sign some bodies, literally, get them in on loan, get them whatever, because because Kone and because of Deli Bashiru and and because Liverpool's 97, we need to have fresh legs in there, and we haven't done it. And it's a tight schedule. You will be playing Saturday, and the same pack. There isn't much shuffling to be done when you've got 22 in the squad and 3 of those are injured, and you've got 9 subs and 11 out. It's you do the math. So it'll be interesting whether or not we shuffle against Leicester and go, yeah, that's and look at it actually and think, well, our subsequent games against you guys and against Huddersfield realistically are where we need to kind of really, really show our true selves. And of course, in that we've also got Rotherham, but I just discount that because it's Rotherham, bless them.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tight game. It's always a good game, to be fair. When us two face each other, we're usually on the wrong end of it. But I could see a similar situation. Fancying a Norwich win, I think, on Tuesday. I'm going to go for 1-0 like I did on your guys' podcast. And with that, do you want to plug the Do Not Scratch Your Eyes podcast and where everyone can find your lovely bonkers content that I've just had the pleasure of being a part of?
Well, if you want to watch the bonkers content, you're better off following us on Twitter, because we don't tend to do a lot on. Well, we do YouTube, but it's mainly Carl doing vlogs. So the bonkers stuff tends to be on Twitter. But if you go to donotScratchYourEyes.com, that's our website. We're also everywhere that you'd expect us to be honest. So yeah, pop along. It's always a laugh.
Yeah,
the match day vlog that Carl normally does, basically he upsets people all over the UK, which is very, very nice. But we did just ask him his thoughts on Norwich, and that was glowing praise. Trust me. For other places, he has damned them to high hell and back, and in this particular instance, he had nothing for Norwich but praise and liking to shout at people at a pub over a river. What more can you want?
There we go. Yeah, I can vouch. So that is true. Of course, we'll link all that stuff down below, so you can head over. And they've got lots of great features that we should probably be taking a leaf out of your book, to be honest. I enjoyed a cracking video, which I'm sure you guys can all head over there and watch their content, and you'll pick up on the one I'm mentioning. Thanks, guys. Really do appreciate your time this afternoon. Of course, fingers crossed we get a classic Norwich-Watford game on Tuesday night. Lots of great content coming your way across our channels. By the time we're recording this, hopefully Norwich have picked up a vital 3 points at Loftus Road, and of course there'll be David Wagner's press conference. Everything else you need to know will be on the YouTube channel by the time you're watching this. So let's see what we get on Tuesday night when the Hornets travel to the Canaries.